Hello, my name is Angela Gartner with Northeast Ohio Parent. We are here with Dr. Anjay Khandelwal from Akron Children's, and he is here to discuss with us about fire safety and fireworks. Hello, doctor. Thank you for coming to talk with us today.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, tell us first about how many injuries that you see related to fire and fireworks at this time of the year, because in your profession, you are a burn surgeon. Is that correct?
Correct. I am the director of the burn unit at Akron Children's Hospital. Yes.
So tell us about how many injuries you see this time of year related to fire and fireworks.
Sure. So summertime is obviously a great time where everyone likes to be outdoors. And along with many of the outdoor activities, some of them include fireworks, especially over the 4th of July holiday weekend, as well as campfires or bonfires. And surprisingly, what a lot of people don't realize is that both of these can actually cause significant number of injuries, as well as significant injuries itself. And so here at the burn unit, it varies year to year, but I would probably say that over the summer months, we may see anywhere from 25 to 40 or so patients with relatively significant burn injuries related to campfires or bonfires. And you could very well see a similar number of patients with firework or firework related injuries as well.
Well, tell us about how families can stay safe around these fires, around these bonfires and fire pits that many families use during this time of year.
Sure. So let's take the two things separately, right? So when we talk about fireworks, interestingly enough, about somewhere between 30 to 40% of the firework and or firework related injuries that we see are actually occur in the pediatric age group, so less than 18 years of age. And so that's one thing to be very cognizant about. A lot of the simple things that we can do to be safe around firework related injuries is, number one, ideally, have the professionals, be the ones setting off the fireworks. They're the ones who are best equipped and with the most amount of knowledge to set off the fireworks. If you are going to do them at home, do them with precaution. So number one, don't be under the influence of alcohol or drugs when you're lighting the fireworks. Keep children away from the fireworks as best as possible. Interestingly enough, most of the firework related injuries are actually occur in bystanders, so people who are not actually the ones lighting the fireworks. And so be very careful that people aren't around you as you're lighting the fireworks, or if they are people around you, make sure you know where they are. Always have a bucket of water and or a fire extinguisher very handy in case you need to put out a fire. If a firework is going off and it fizzles out, or you think it's a dud, don't go back and try to relight it. Make sure that when you are approaching the firework, that you are approaching it with caution. Once it's done and it's let off, go ahead and put it in a bucket of water or something like that, just to make sure there's not going to be any additional sparks or anything else that's going to ignite. The other thing that's important is don't throw away the fireworks. And so, for example, if you're playing with something, don't throw it away in a pile of brush or in some leaves or over some plants or something like that. Make sure you're utilizing them in a clean, dry area. So those are a couple of the important things related to fireworks. I will say that another thing that people are frequently unaware of are the number of injuries related to sparklers. And so sparklers themselves account for sometimes anywhere from about 25 to 30% of the injuries that we see. Surprisingly, the tip of a sparkler can actually reach up to temperatures of about 1,000 to 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. And at that temperature, it can very easily ignite clothing. And so be very careful with sparklers, especially around children. I know we always think that sparklers are very safe around children, and children like to light the fire or the sparklers and wave them around. But once again, they can actually be a significant source or cause of injury, and a frequent cause of injury amongst the pediatric age group. Taking the other side of this, and when we start talking about bonfires and campfires, once again, that's a very common injury that we see. A lot of it, unfortunately, is related to kind of careless behavior. And so once again, if you're going to be in the presence of a campfire or a bonfire, please don't be near it, under the influence of alcohol or drugs. Make sure that you keep children away from campfires or bonfires. No horsing around. I know we all try to, or we all tend to do that, but no horsing around near campfires or bonfires. And the reason being is that it's very easy to trip and fall into a campfire. And the injuries that you can sustain can, number one, be significant, but number two, they can actually occur very, very quickly. So we're not talking about minutes that it takes to get an injury. We're talking about fraction of a second that it takes to get a significant and severe burn injury that can sometimes be life-threatening. So in terms of the precautions and the safety tips, those are probably the biggest things that I have to offer. Obviously, there's other safety tips with a campfire, making sure you have a clear area around yourself, making sure you have a fire extinguisher or some water, make sure you put out the fire completely, pour some water on it, things like that. But very important tips to be safe around fireworks and campfires.
Well, what happens if someone gets injured or like injured and they actually get burned, whether it's severe or not?
Sure. So the unique thing about burn related injuries is that sometimes we look at these injuries and other people may not think that they're very severe, when in fact they can be very severe. And sometimes they can either be life threatening or they can actually cause functional impairment. So maybe the inability to use your hands or fingers. Sometimes burn injuries can be that severe. So if someone does sustain a burn injury, obviously you want to, or not obviously, but you do want to run the area under cool water. So not cold water or ice water, definitely not hot water, but you want to run it under cool water. If someone is on fire, you want to put it out by throwing a blanket over them or doing the classic stop, drop, and roll, which is very important. But putting out the fire, like I said, running it under cool water is always beneficial. Maybe covering it with a cool cloth or a damp cloth that's clean, and then taking them to an emergency room, or preferably taking them to your nearest burn center.
Is there common injuries there's common injuries that you see around like the fireworks and the bonfires?
Sure, there are a number of common injuries. So with fireworks, interestingly enough, about 25% of the injuries that we see are going to involve the hands and fingers. Another 25% of the injuries that we see in regards to fireworks is going to be involving the face and the eyes. And so a lot of times there can be damage to the eyes, sometimes leading to partial or full blindness. And then sometimes there can be significant injuries to the hands and fingers. Once again, it may even result in functional impairment or the inability to use your hands and fingers. So those are the most common related injuries that we see in regards to fireworks. In regards to the campfires, unfortunately, one of the more severe injuries that we see is either sometimes people are pouring gasoline or other substances onto the campfire in an attempt to get it going, quicker, or getting it larger. And so we see a lot of what we call flash burns with that, where the flames just kind of flash up on people. And those can involve a large area of the body. So they can cover frequently the arms, the face, the legs, any exposed area of the body, and can cause a very large area burn. The other thing that we see in regards to campfires and bonfires, however, are going to be the clothing catching on fire. So if people either fall into the campfire, maybe they're walking too close to it, maybe there's a can of gasoline or something else that's flammable that's in the campfire or the bonfire that they don't realize. And when those ignite, they can ignite the clothing. And when the clothing ignites, once again, that can cause a very severe burn injury to both adults and children.
And I mean, with the 4th of July coming up, the state of Ohio passed a new fireworks law where, there are some fireworks that are allowed that use for residents, not just that can use consumer fireworks, not just professionals. So with that being said, a lot of families are going to be getting fireworks and sparklers and these kind of things. Now, is there any recommendations that you have that are safe to use, that maybe doesn't need to be ignited?
Sure. So number one, I would say that make sure you're buying fireworks from, a legitimate source. So there's a number of well-known vendors around the area. So make sure you're buying your fireworks from those sources. Never use fireworks that are old. So don't use last season's fireworks. Those can actually be dangerous as well. The other thing is, there are some fireworks that may not necessarily be the most fun, but they are, but once you ignite them, there's no flame or sparks that are associated with it. So granted, some of those fireworks aren't as fun, but sometimes they are safer. One of the other fireworks that we tend to feel are a little bit safer are some of the like the smoke bombs, or the smoking fireworks. But once again, those can cause significant irritation to the lungs and the eyes. And so those are also not very safe. I think bottom line is it's really important to leave, especially the larger fireworks, to the professionals. If you are going to be lighting the fireworks at home, once again, take the basic safety precautions. Have the bucket of water, and or a fire extinguisher nearby. Keep the children and bystanders away, and employ some basic safety precautions, as we already discussed. That's really the best way to keep it safe over the 4th of July weekend.
I mean, the new law, the fireworks law, is supposed to go into effect July 1st. And do you have any worries this year that now this new law will go into effect?
We naturally do have a concern, and so we are worried, and we will be monitoring the increase or potential increase in firework related injuries. That's one thing that we're going to be very mindful about. We hope to do some more educational programs, similar to this, and educating the public about the dangers of fireworks and the safety precautions that we should take. So those are all important things that we're going to be, taking into consideration going into the holiday weekend, but definitely something that we're concerned about. We really hope that people play it safe because we want everyone to enjoy their holiday weekend.
And the last thing I wanted to ask was, for the fireworks, a lot of people, don't do fireworks at home, but then go to large gatherings and go actually see fireworks that professional. Is there any advice to keep them safe, especially as the fireworks are going off, for kids and small children who this might be their first experience, seeing and hearing all the fireworks?
Sure. So most of the professionals are going to do a pretty good job of making sure they have a clear area, and they've taken the basic safety precautions into consideration. And so if you are going to go to a professional display, for the most part, you should be pretty safe in those circumstances. Where it gets a little tricky is when you're going and you're visiting a family friend or neighbors, or some other relatives who are lighting off the fireworks. And once again, as we discussed, the vast majority of these injuries occur in bystanders. And so even if you're going to just watch the fireworks at maybe your neighbor's house or a family friend, so on and so forth, be very careful about even being that bystander near the fireworks, especially keeping your children away, from the fireworks, keeping them at a safe distance, and keeping them protected.
Well, how can people learn more information about you and Akron Children's?
Sure. So it's very easy. If anyone has any questions about fireworks or safety regarding fireworks or campfires, they're more than welcome to call Akron Children's Hospital. They can be patched into the burn unit. We're more than welcome to go over some of those tips. Over the course of the summer, we do plan on doing some more educational events around the area, and talking to people about preventing injuries and the safety precautions that that one should take.
And just because it's the 4th of July coming up doesn't mean that's the only time that we have to remember about fireworks safety and bonfire safety, correct?
That is correct. There's other occasions where people like to light fireworks. So 4th of July, there's New Year's. Sometimes you see it at other different religious or cultural holidays. And so you're absolutely right. There are other occasions apart from just the 4th of July where a lot of people like to light fireworks, but naturally the same precautions should be taken around those times. So just because it's cooler weather outside, it doesn't mean that you can't sustain a firework related injury.
Well, we really appreciate your time today. For more parenting advice, please visit northeastohioparent.com.